Greetings, my name's Srikanth. I run the blog Confessions of a Laundry Faerie, and this is the 4th week after my surgery, my duodenal switch surgery specifically, which took place about a month ago. As far as the stats are concerned, for those who are joining us for the first time, I'm 48 years old. At my heaviest, I weighed 270 pounds. At surgery, I weighed 235 pounds, and as of this morning, I weighed 211 pounds, 0.6. It's interesting to me that I'm not really seeing big changes in my body. I'm not seeing a visual change anyway. The numbers are going down. I can tell that my clothes are fitting a little differently, not necessarily better or worse, just differently. And my rings are getting loose. But other than those signs, I'm not seeing a lot of visual changes. I don't think I look a whole lot different as far as the width of my face. I don't think that the majority of people have noticed that there's been any changes. And frankly, you sometimes see this when you lose even a large amount of weight. I've lost about 25 pounds in the last month. But the problem, I've said this to a couple of friends, so they're going to say, I've heard this before. The problem with being a large person who loses a lot of weight, when you are already a small person and you lose 10 pounds, everybody gathers around and says, oh my gosh, what did you do? You look fantastic. When you are a large person and you lose 50 pounds, most people don't notice. Some friends may look at you a little quizzically and say, something's different. Did you cut your hair? They just don't notice, because even though you've lost a whole lot of weight, it's off a larger mass, and so it's not as easy to notice. What else is going on? Oh, today is the last day of the clear liquid diet. Yes! I'm getting so tired of the clear liquid diet. I will be moving on to the puree stage tomorrow, and I think it's a little ridiculous just how excited I am for that, but it will mean a great deal more things I can eat and enjoy, even if I have to reduce them to goo in the blender. I don't care. Funnily enough, this new stage just happens to coincide with our wedding anniversary, which is tomorrow, so that's kind of fun. Exercise. I really didn't get any last week. I was planning on it. Now I'm having a finger shaken at me by my cameraman. It was like, no, bad suit, no biscuit. Fine, whatever. One of the things that I will argue against exercise the last couple of weeks was that our air quality was worse than Beijing's. We had all kinds of wildfires burning across the western U.S. There are still quite a few that are burning in various places. I checked Weather Underground a couple of times in the last few weeks, and the air quality index just said, don't go near there. So I wasn't too keen on running around or even walking around in a situation where they're saying it's like the equivalent of getting 2 packs a day of smoking going out there. So I was like, nah. But as I move into the puree stage and then later on to solid food, I will have to get exercise in to burn the calories from what I eat as well as the excess fat. So that's something I've got to do. And we have had some rain, so a lot of the nasty crud that was in the air has been washed away, and I feel much safer about wandering around my neighborhood. So today let's cover a few things about your actual surgery, things you probably need to know before your surgery, on the day of, and just after. These were things that I wasn't completely aware of before my surgery, so it might be helpful to others to be aware of these things. So, before surgery, be aware that you need to bring on the day of something to wear home that will be super loose around your abdomen. Now, my surgeon tried to cover this. He said, wear comfortable clothes on the day of your surgery, which wasn't specific enough. The t-shirt and jeans that I brought to the hospital were super comfortable before surgery. But then my abdomen was completely swollen when it was time for me to go home, and the things I had worn in that were completely fine and very comfortable were no longer comfortable. So I was in considerable pain, and I don't want you to be in considerable pain. So ladies, bring a dress that is nice and flowy and goes very loosely over your abdomen. Gentlemen, you might want to consider a bathrobe or a caftan. Wear your grandpa's lungi, whatever it happens to be. You want comfort well over fashion in this situation. Trust me, it was not a happy situation to have to wear those jeans home. The day of surgery, you might want to bring something relatively mindless to do, because they're going to keep you waiting around for a while. That's just kind of the nature of most hospitals in North America. If it's anything like my experience, I had a surgeon who wanted me to check into the hospital at 5 a.m., day of surgery, even though I believe I actually went into surgery around 4 p.m. that day, which was a long time to wait around. So I brought some knitting. I borrowed my husband's laptop and did a little bit of mindless web surfing while I was in the hospital. I tried to take a nap or two, since I am not a morning person and probably never will be at this point. If I hadn't brought some things to do, I think I would have gone a little bit stir crazy. So bring stuff to do. And if you can have somebody along with you, which most surgeons will recommend, you may want to hand off the stuff to do when they finally do take you in and start getting you ready for surgery. So you want somebody to keep an eye on that stuff. If you're like me and you're a diabetic patient, don't be surprised if after your surgery your blood sugars are way up. I was a little disappointed to come across that, but then I realized what was going on. Now, there are some people who go home from the hospital with completely normalized blood sugars after DS surgery. I was not one of them. I was hoping for it, but that doesn't always happen. So, and it's not all that surprising when you realize that your blood sugars quite often go up in times of stress, and abdominal surgery is pretty much a textbook case of a high stress activity. Your body is going to be reacting by pumping as much sugar into your blood as it can. The other thing is, you think about those IV drips that they put into you, all the various solutions that they put in, the so-called banana bags full of vitamins and so forth. They're full of sugar water. It was rare during the time I was in the hospital that my blood sugars were below 240. Remember, 100 is normal. And that's because the nurses kept pumping fancy sugar water into me. They kept having to give me insulin. And although that was frustrating, I began to realize why when they suddenly said, you know, there's a lot of sugar in these bags. So even though I couldn't keep anything down, my blood sugars were running high. And that's actually a pretty common thing. So, you know, don't feel terrible if that happens. Oh yeah. Don't be dumb like me. Just because they say you'll be up and walking the day after surgery, that doesn't mean you're going to be ready to go back to work the next day. The reason why they want you to be up and walking is not because you're going to be feeling highly chipper and ready to run the Boston Marathon. It's because they want to make sure that you don't have to deal with things like trapped gas, with blood clots in your legs. They want you walking for your health and your safety, not because you're ready to handle anything. You know, laparoscopic surgery is still surgery, and even though it has a faster recuperation time than traditional surgery, you still need time to recuperate. So don't assume that it's going to be just fine, you can do it, no problem. No, it's going to take at least a week, quite possibly longer, depending on how well you respond to the surgery. And that brings me to my last and probably most important bit of advice. When it comes to duodenal switch surgery, do not compare yourself to other patients. Now, the day that I had my surgery, my doctor actually performed 2 different surgeries that day. They were both duodenal switch surgery. They were both on female patients. They both lasted about 6 hours. The next day, the other patient was up and walking around the hospital floor with her husband, happy and excited and full of energy. Meanwhile, I'm moving like a 95-year-old dissipated arthritic woman. I've got that IV drip in a complete death grip on one side of me. I'm hanging on to the poor CNA with all my might on the other side, and she's watching me like a hawk, just in case I lose my balance and turf it into the hospital floor, which was an entirely reasonable possibility. I could barely do a single circuit of the hospital floor because I was just so taken down by the surgery. I get to the end of that circuit and I'm sweating like a sinner in church, so I go back into my hospital bed and I stay there for, I think, the rest of the day. And it was very hard for me not to feel envious of that other patient. She seemed to be doing so much better than I was. And it just didn't seem to make sense to me. She had the same surgeon, she had the same surgery, it was on the same day. How was it that she was doing so much better than I was? It just wasn't fair. Well, DS surgeries, despite having the basic functions the same, are very much individualized. They vary a lot from person to person, and your personal anatomy probably doesn't look exactly like the see-through anatomical model that you might have seen in high school. Everybody's insides are just a little bit different, and your surgeon is going to have to work around whatever he or she happens to find under your skin. Not only that, you have to take into account previous health, age, how much weight you managed to lose before the surgery. There are hosts of different factors that come in even before you start thinking in terms of who is your surgeon. What does your surgeon have to say, and what does your surgeon believe about restriction versus malabsorption? How long is your common channel going to be? How long is your alimentary limb going to be? How small will your stomach be? These are all things that can differ from person to person and from surgeon to surgeon. So yes, even though you had DS surgery just like this other person who had DS surgery, your responses to the surgery and your ability to bounce back from the surgery and the way you take care of yourself after the surgery, they're going to be different. You will want to work very closely with your surgeon to figure out what is best for you. Your surgery is going to be unique to you. So comparing yourself to other people serves no useful purpose. I know it's tempting, but don't do it. It won't make you happy, it will make you frustrated. If you focus on, this is my surgery, and I'm going to do what my surgeon tells me I need to do, you're going to have the best outcomes for you. Anyway, that's all for this week. Again, my name's Suze Cat. I run the blog Confessions of a Laundry Faerie, which can be found at laundryfaerie.blogspot.com. As always, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you would like to give me advice, if there's anything else that you'd like to discuss, please comment below. If you're interested in seeing what kinds of shenanigans I'm up to, please subscribe and you'll get automatic updates letting you know when we've posted the latest video. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. I hope you're doing well, and we'll see you next time. Bye. There were a couple people on Facebook who wanted to see Roxy because she made a guest appearance in our last video. She's really not happy with me right now. I picked her up. She doesn't like to be picked up. I mean, she's okay with it, but she's not great, so I'm gonna let her go. But now you know what she looks like. All right, crazy beast.